10 years after marrying my husband, I discovered he had fallen for the young medic at his military camp. He showed no shame, merely sighing as if resigned to fate. "I'll restrain my feelings. She's a good girl, I wouldn't be foolish enough to let her bear the shame." In that instant, my body froze. My feet felt like lead. Childhood sweethearts. Married for 10 years. Yet his greatest fear wasn't that I'd discover his betrayal of his lifelong vow to me, but that his beloved would bear the shame. He was far too confident in himself. How could he imagine that I, who once wouldn't tolerate a speck of dust in my eye, would ever want a faithless man? When I heard Zhang Lingxiao was wounded, I worried myself sleepless and rushed straight to his camp, terrified something had happened. When his subordinate brought me before him, his face showed no joy at seeing me, only a faint expression. He didn't care at all that I'd come. Even now, after journeying day and night, my weariness plain on my face, he showed not a shred of concern. He merely asked me indifferently, "Why are you here?" "Don't worry. Qingqing is here at the camp. I won't come to any harm." Qingqing was the medic at the military camp. I said nothing, only quietly observing every corner of his tent. His desk held not only military manuals but also numerous medical texts. In the corner, his armor hung on the wall, beneath it a blue hemp robe. A faint, lingering scent of medicinal herbs filled the air. The room wasn't as cluttered as before, everything was neatly placed in its designated spot. Before I could say a word, he began explaining, "I was badly injured recently. Qingqing had to stay by my side every day, watching over me constantly." I remained silent, walking over to sit on the bed. The divine physicians who had accompanied me from the capital looked at me with puzzlement. I waved them out, and they left without a word. I reached under the pillow and pulled out a wooden hairpin. I watched Zhang Lingxiao quietly. He said nothing, and neither did I. The autumn air carried a hint of chill, yet I felt a coldness seep through me from head to toe. He sighed heavily. "It's all because they made my condition sound so dire." Thankfully, Qingqing stayed by my side to care for me. This pin must have been left behind by accident while she was tending to me. I remained silent, watching him intently. He continued to speak to himself. "Has Yunshu been studying diligently lately? With me gone, has she been following your instructions properly? You have no idea how much I miss you both here. At night, I truly long for you and Yunshu. I had long ago instructed them not to inform you, for fear you'd worry too much." I couldn't bear to listen anymore and cut him off. "Have you thought this through? How do you plan to explain all these things she left in your room to me?" My hand clenched the wooden hairpin, trembling slightly yet gripping tightly, my fingertips turning white. As he asked that question, I felt as if my body were suspended in midair, one foot unable to find solid ground. The contrast between us was stark. I held back my rage, while he brushed it off casually. "Yutong, why have you become as suspicious as the women of the capital? Didn't I already tell you? It's because my injuries were too severe." I still didn't speak, just stared at him silently. I fought to contain my emotions, wanting to preserve the last shred of dignity between us, yet also hoping to see when he would finally break down and tell me everything. He explained at length, and I listened to his perfunctory lies, watching him silently, until he could say no more. He told me she was in his heart, and sitting across from him, I no longer felt like his wife, but rather his longtime friend. He described how his feelings for her had blossomed. He said she was a vibrant woman unlike any he'd ever met. He said she was different from others, seemingly fragile on the outside, yet incredibly strong within. He spoke of her meticulous care for patients, how they'd long sensed each other's affection but neither dared speak first. When he mentioned the delicate threads of emotion between them, an involuntary smile touched his face. I remained silent. My heart had already gone numb the moment he admitted his love for her. Every detail he shared felt like a rag, wiping away the affection between us. He sighed and said regretfully, "Yu Tong, I'm sorry, but I haven't done anything to betray you. We only ever expressed our feelings for each other, nothing more. I haven't forgotten my promise to you. She will become an excellent doctor. I will put my feelings aside. I won't be foolish enough to let her bear the shame." In that moment, I felt utterly ridiculous. Childhood sweethearts, 10 years of marriage, and an 8-year-old daughter. Yet now, he didn't care at all about how I felt after learning all this. He was only afraid his beloved would bear the shame. It felt like being slapped hard across the face, then kicked violently to the ground. I rose and struck his cheek with a backhand. 5 finger marks instantly appeared. He froze for a second, yet his expression showed no remorse. "Yu Tong, I know you can't accept this, but feelings aren't something I can control." I couldn't bear to listen any longer. Smack! I struck his other cheek, leaving a symmetrical mark. From dismounting the carriage to boarding the one bound for the capital, it took me only 2 hours. Only as the carriage began its journey did I regain my composure. My hands trembled uncontrollably. My vision blurred, and tears fell in heavy drops onto my hands. It was utterly laughable and pitiful. The husband I'd worried about day and night in the capital, upon seeing me, declared he'd fallen for another woman. He even confessed their unrequited love, as if I were the villain who'd torn them apart. Zhang Lingxiao was far too confident. He seemed to believe I'd accept his newfound affection, that after his confession, I'd still embrace him as before. What gave him that right? It had been 5 days since our return to the capital. The moment we reached the gates of the general's residence, Yunshu dashed toward me, calling out "Mother," as she threw herself into my arms. I held her tightly against me. 5 days had been ample time to process my emotions. I didn't wish to deliberately conceal Zhang Lingxiao's new love. So when Yunshu looked up and asked if father was feeling better, I looked into Yunshu's eyes and told her, "Your father has someone caring for him over there, the one he holds dearest in his heart." Yunshu was already 8 years old. She understood many things well beyond her years. So when I spoke these words, she instantly grasped what they meant. She nestled obediently against my legs, her tone mature beyond her years. "Mother, it's okay. Yunshu will always stay by your side." Tonight, Yunshu stayed with me until I fell asleep. After she drifted off, my mind drifted to all the moments between me and Zhang Lingxiao. I recalled the tenderness in his eyes when he spoke of that girl. I wondered what I had done to make Zhang Lingxiao so utterly at ease telling me he had fallen for someone else. Recalling his study, off limits to others for 3 years, everything suddenly clicked. I had to see what lay within. I rose and made my way to Zhang Lingxiao's study. The lock on the study door was custom-made by the finest locksmith in the capital, guarding Zhang Lingxiao's secrets. I grabbed an axe and tore the study door off its hinges. I stepped inside his study. Everything was exactly as it had been before. An unmarked book lay on his desk. I walked over and picked it up. It was Zhang Lingxiao's record of the little moments between him and her. She was the girl the old military doctor had found on the road years ago, Fang Qing, 10 years younger than Zhang Lingxiao. When Zhang Lingxiao first met her, she was already 11, yet frail and thin, appearing no older than 7 or 8. She followed the military doctor, diligently recording every word her master spoke. After reviewing it several times, she could perform procedures herself. Zhang Lingxiao became her first patient. She treated Zhang Lingxiao exceptionally well. Afterward, she looked up at him wide-eyed, asking if he could praise her. Zhang Lingxiao ruffled her hair and told her she was amazing. They didn't meet again until she was 14. A stark contrast to her former frail self. Zhang Lingxiao said he recognized the girl he'd met 3 years prior at a glance. Her hands had grown much more skilled. From her master, he learned she seemed to be a natural healer, grasping things almost instantly upon seeing them. He wrote in his notes, "She resembles the rain tangerine of old. Yet she is not her. For my gaze unconsciously follows her, a feeling I never had with rain tangerine." He noticed Fong Qing blush unnaturally every time she bandaged his wounds. She dared not meet his gaze. But this gave him the perfect opportunity to look at her openly. During that period, they were together almost every day. Zhang Lingxiao invented countless excuses just to keep Fong Qing by his side for one more second. He said, simply watching her brought him immense joy. This record dates back 4 years. When my father and elder brother perished on the battlefield, I was grieving at home, nearly consumed by sorrow, while he harbored secret feelings for another woman. I remember Yunshu was still a little girl then. She had her personal maid write a letter to Zhang Lingxiao, hoping he would return to see me. At that time, the border conflicts had ceased, and he had achieved a great victory. Zhang Lingxiao could have returned, but he didn't. When Yunshu confronted him after his return, he claimed he never received that letter. In his writing, he revealed that he had indeed received it and desperately wanted to come back. Yet his heart urged him to stay and spend more time with Fong Qing. What did I say then? I told Yunshu, "Father works so hard. Like grandfather and uncle, he defends the frontier." Reading these words now, I find it laughable. When Zhang Lingxiao heard my explanation to Yunshu, did he also mock me inwardly? Mock my delusions of grandeur? Or was he secretly delighted that I hadn't noticed a single clue? After that, they confessed their feelings to each other, both realizing the love in the other's heart. But bound by the vow he made to me in his youth, that he would marry only me for all eternity, neither dared reveal their relationship in public. Zhang Lingxiao would often develop minor ailments, and only Fong Qing could cure them. These became their secret rendezvous opportunities. She would sneak into his tent at night, crawl under his blankets, and tell him how much she missed him. Each time, he regretted his past foolishness, realizing his true love now had to appear in his life in secret. His heart ached for her, so he loved her and cherished her all the more. Zhang Lingxiao said each night, "I wish the dawn would never come." Half a month later, Zhang Lingxiao returned to the capital. Upon his return, he rushed straight to my courtyard to see me. His armor still clung to his body, reminding me of the garments hidden beneath it. I had the servants take Yunshu away, leaving only Zhang Lingxiao and me in the courtyard. I took out the prepared divorce papers and handed them to him. He glanced at them and spoke softly, "Yutong, I never intended to bring her into the mansion. Qingqing herself wishes to remain outside. Even if we have children, they will bear your name. Qingqing has said she would never compete with you for the position of general's wife. Yutong, rest assured, you are my only wife. Why must you?" Watching him accuse me, his image overlapped with the memory of him swearing before my father and brother's graves. The pent-up emotions of these days finally erupted. I roared at him, "Zhang Lingxiao, must I tear away the last shred of your shame? If you couldn't keep your word, you shouldn't have sworn before me and my family. What kind of unrequited love charade were you putting on for me? I made way for you, yet you still crave fame and fortune. Zhang Lingxiao, your scheming beads have landed squarely on my face. She disgusts me. You disgust me even more." He rubbed his temples impatiently. "Yutong, you know I didn't come here to fight. This is my fault. But I truly made you my only wife. Qingqing doesn't care about being a concubine either. Can't you try to see things from my perspective? Yutong, you know I won't let go of you and Yunshu. What I've promised, I will deliver." He sounded like he was comforting me, yet also comforting himself. Seeing him so self-satisfied, I laughed bitterly. I laughed at how the man I loved could be like this. Laughed at how I'd wasted all these years only to finally see the person lying beside me for what he truly was. In his mind, it seemed that as long as he hid their relationship well enough, kept it secret from outsiders. I could pretend none of this had ever happened. I must forgive him. As if he'd granted me some great favor. He believed that as long as their affair remained secret, as long as he didn't marry Fong Qing, he hadn't broken his vow. I turned and flung all the scrolls I'd gathered from his study at him. These things disgust me just as much as you do. I've already given you the divorce papers, that's the last shred of dignity I'll grant you. If you wish to formally divorce me, I'll report it to the authorities as is. Yu Tong, when did you become like this? How could things between us? Don't you care at all about the years we've shared? He stared at me in shock. I looked at him with a cold sneer. Zhang Xiao. This is the best resolution I can offer out of respect for our past. You'd better do as I say, or our separation won't be so peaceful. Zhang Xiao gathered the scattered paintings from the floor. Upon hearing my words, he looked up at me. What do you mean? Zhang Xiao. Have you forgotten who I am? I am the legitimate daughter of the Yongzhong Marquis. My family has served as loyal ministers for 3 generations. I am the Princess of Jiajing. Tell me, if the Emperor and the Empress Dowager discovered your little physician, what fate would she meet? He desperately tried to justify himself. It's not her fault. Su Yutong. This is all my fault. Take your anger out on me. Don't drag others into this. The moment he finished speaking, I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. Zhang Xiao. You'd better recognize your place. You can't keep obsessing over her while clinging to everything you've gained from me. You're fucking disgusting. Mark my words, this is the last of my patience. Don't push me further. Yun Shu is my daughter. She belongs only with me. You'd better agree to the divorce soon. You know very well, if you refuse, I have ways to make you comply. But whether you'll lose your dignity or your life, I can't guarantee. He slumped listlessly in a corner as we stood locked in a tense standoff. He muttered to himself. His eyes filled with disappointment as he looked at me. How did it come to this? His gaze held no threat toward me anymore. Ever since I learned of their feelings for each other, my relationship with Zhang Xiao had already ended. Zhang Xiao didn't sign the divorce papers. Instead, he moved to sleep in the study. He said he couldn't accept this now, and would wait until I felt better to explain. I told him this was the conclusion I'd reached after much consideration. He looked at me with a complex expression. Have you considered Yun Shu? What if she attends the banquet and gets pointed at? I replied, Zhang Xiao. You overestimate yourself. Do you think winning a few battles makes you a great general? Have you forgotten that even after Yun Shu left the Zhan family, she remains my daughter from the Su family and the niece of the official's family? I knew long ago that divorcing Zhang Xiao wouldn't be simple. Compared to Zhang Xiao, I always knew his family would be the real challenge. Zhang Xiao's mother, Lady Chen, and his aunt, Lady Jiang, appeared in my courtyard. Their demeanor suggested they'd come to confront me. Yet they held back from speaking too harshly due to my status. Lady Chen advised me with a worried expression, Yu Tong, I've learned the truth about you and Ling Xiao. Don't worry, I won't allow him to marry that woman. Think about it, you and Ling Xiao have known each other for so many years. If he happens to meet a new woman, it's just him trying something new. He always remembers that you are the most important person in his heart. Besides, the Yongzheng Marquis' residence is now empty. If you really divorce Ling Xiao and return alone with Yun Shu, how will the two of you women live in the Marquis' residence? My maternal family was the Earl of Yongzheng. The Marquisate was earned by our ancestors fighting alongside the imperial court to establish the dynasty. My father and brothers died in battle before I married. After I left home, my mother, unable to bear the grief of missing my father, chose to take her own life. Now that the Qin family has brought this up again, it's merely to remind me that I am the sole remaining member of the Marquisate, and that I stand utterly alone. She also seeks to remind me that Yun Shu, the child I bore, is a daughter. Should I divorce Zhang Xiao? Yunshu would have no choice but to follow me. I should have known long ago that, due to my status, no one in the Zhang family ever openly mistreated me. Even after giving birth to Yunshu, when I was told my body could bear no more children, Zhang Lingxiao would have only one daughter. Even so, no one in the Zhang family ever gossiped about me behind my back. I knew the Zhang family harbored resentment toward me, but hearing her speak like this now ignited a surge of anger within me. Madam. I did not call her mother again. Her face darkened upon hearing this. You seem to have forgotten that my dowry exceeds the combined wealth of the entire Zhang family. Rather than worrying about Yunshu and my future livelihood, you should be concerned about how to manage the Zhang family's accounts. Truly the daughter of a marquis's household, she spoke without the slightest reservation. Jiangshi chimed in with a sarcastic tone. Yu Tong, don't blame your aunt for speaking plainly. We've always followed the adage, marry a hen. Follow the hen, marry a dog. Follow the dog. Besides, Ling Xiao refused to let that woman enter the door for your sake. How can you lack even this basic grace of a mistress of the house? Aunt, you don't understand me. And I won't blame you. After all, everyone knows uncle has over a dozen concubines in his inner quarters. I imagine you must thoroughly enjoy life without a husband by your side, otherwise you wouldn't speak such words. You. Jiang slammed her hand on the table, her trembling finger pointing at me. I met her gaze without flinching. Madam Chen stepped between us, taking my hand earnestly. Yu Tong, we speak these truths for your own good. You are the daughter of a marquis. Your mother will say what you may not wish to hear. Given your temperament, Ling Xiao is the only man in the entire capital who could tolerate you. If you truly divorce him, where will you ever find another man like him? I withdrew my hand without a trace of emotion and turned to my maid, Peony. She immediately understood. Stepping before the two women, she spoke respectfully, ladies. Our young mistress wishes to retire. She cannot continue this conversation. We kindly request you return now. Seeing Peony's action, both women were furious. Madame Jiang pointed at me. Su Yu Tong, you and Ling Xiao haven't formally divorced yet. You're still our Zhang family's daughter-in-law. How dare you turn us away? We are your elders. After all. Besides, I met that Fong girl, she's nothing like you. Have you ever considered it might be your fault? Ling Xiao became this way because of you. Instead of reflecting on your own shortcomings, you turn the blame back on us. You're a barren woman who couldn't even bear a son for the Zhang family. What's wrong with Ling Xiao seeking companionship elsewhere? Seeing Mrs. Zhang's furious expression, I recalled the moment after giving birth to Yunshu when I was told I could bear no more children. The Zhang family plunged into cold indifference. Only Zhang Ling Xiao, cradling Yunshu, remained joyful. Upon hearing the news, he said, "It's fine. Now we can focus our love solely on Yunshu." No one in the Zhang family ever mentioned it again. Yet now they wield this as a dagger against me. But they've forgotten. My body collapsed from premature labor induced by saving Jiangshi's son after he fell from a high building. I've lost the words to describe the chill in my heart. Yes. I can no longer bear a son for the Zhang family. Have you forgotten this is all because I saved your son? And mark my words, I, Su Yu Tong, will not endure humiliation for any man. Without Zhang Ling Xiao, I will still live well. Since you crave a son so desperately, go persuade Zhang Ling Xiao to divorce me. Tell him to hurry up and have children with Fong Qing, lots of them, while he's still young. Let those two produce sons for your Zhang family. Seeing my icy expression, Madame Jiang chuckled lightly and began her taunts. Your entire maternal family is gone. Do you really think you're still the young miss of the Marquis mansion? After leaving our Zhang family, who would ever want someone like you? No wonder Ling Xiao fell for someone else. Even I, a woman, find you irritating. You're probably doomed to be abandoned again in any future marriage. The Marquis' household has stood firm all these years, perhaps it's because you've been cursing it. Ah. Before she could finish, I lunged forward, grabbed her hair, and slapped her across the face. Who gave you the nerve? How dare you speak ill of my Yongjong Marquis? With that, I kicked her hard, sending her crashing to the ground. Born into a military family, my strength remained undiminished despite years without training. Jiang lay unconscious on the floor. Seeing her unconscious, I stepped forward again to slap her awake. Her shrieks and my curses echoed throughout the courtyard. Madam Qin, initially startled, rushed forward to intervene. Peony stepped directly in front of her, smiling as she said, "Madam, our young mistress has been spoiled since childhood by the Marquis and the Empress Dowager. She doesn't know her own strength. It's best you don't approach, lest she accidentally harm you." Qin Shi was held back, while Jiang Shi was beaten into a bloody mess under my fists. Her mouth still spewed filth. Su Yutong, how dare you hit me? I am the general's aunt. Ling Xiao won't let you get away with this. Su Yutong, what are you doing? Someone had secretly alerted Zhang Ling Xiao, who now shouted at me. I stood up, shaking my wrist, and looked at him coldly. Are you blind? Can't you see what I'm doing? She's my aunt. How dare you hit her? You show less and less respect for your elders, Zhang Ling Xiao said, stepping forward to pick up Jiang Shi. I folded my arms and watched him. Zhang Ling Xiao, this is who I am. I only acted submissive toward them because they were your family. Now, you mean nothing to me. He stared at me in shock, wanting to argue further, but Jiang Shi in his arms was badly injured. Su Yutong, I'll settle this with you when I return. He spat out these words before leaving with Jiang Shi in his arms, followed by the sobbing Qin Shi. Perhaps I'd pretended for too long, causing Zhang Ling Xiao to forget I was someone who never forgave a slight. Zhang Ling Xiao and I were childhood sweethearts. We'd known each other since we were little, but he was the son of a fifth-rank official, while I was the daughter of the eternal loyalty Marquis and the eldest princess. Back then, I couldn't have cared less about Zhang Ling Xiao. He couldn't hold a candle to me in either status or ability. I still recall when my crown prince brother asked what I thought of Zhang Ling Xiao. I casually replied, nothing special. His status falls short of mine. His martial prowess can't match my brother's, and his learning doesn't hold a candle to yours. But all that changed after a hunting expedition. During the hunt, I encountered spies from the enemy kingdom who recognized my identity. While fleeing, I fell from a cliff but luckily landed in a cave at its edge. I waited alone in that cave for a day and night until Zhang Ling Xiao found me. When he saw me, he embraced me, patting my back soothingly, though he was trembling all over himself. His words seemed meant for me, yet echoed his own relief. You're safe. You're safe. He carried me on his back, step by step, out of that forest. I heard his heartbeat and saw the relief in his eyes at having me back. As I fell asleep on his back, I heard his choked voice, Su Yutong, thank goodness you're safe. The seed of a young girl's budding affection was planted right then. Later, I heard the Empress Dowager was seeking a suitable match for me. When Zhang Ling Xiao found me, he was so nervous he couldn't speak for a long time. Only when his fingers were nearly torn raw did he finally say, Yutong, I like you. Could you please not marry someone else? I swear I will love only you for the rest of my life. His words moved me deeply. I returned home demanding to marry him. At first, father and mother refused. Zhang Ling Xiao came to our home and pledged to them that he would love only me for the rest of his life and protect me completely. Mother had no choice but to go to the palace and explain everything to the Empress Dowager. Upon learning of this, the imperial court deemed my marriage to the Zhang family beneath their stature. They elevated the Zhang family's status, promoting Zhang Lingxiao's father from a fifth-rank official to a third-rank official. On our wedding day, Zhang Lingxiao held my hand, his heart overflowing with joy. Back then, I truly believed we would be as he promised, one soul for all eternity, with only me in his eyes forever. Of course, I wouldn't wait like a doormat for him to return. Watching their figures disappear, I ordered Peony, prepare the carriage. I'm taking Yunshu to the palace. On the way, Yunshu leaned against my leg, her small form looking at me hesitantly. Yunshu, what do you want to say? I asked her first. Her eyes were slightly reddened. Mother, is it because I'm a daughter that father would? I pulled her tightly into my embrace. No. Yunshu, you were born through the sacrifice of my life. No one is more important than you. You have done nothing wrong. I suppose Jiangshi's words in my courtyard must have been overheard by her to some extent. Even if I regret marrying Zhang Lingxiao, I never once regretted giving birth to my daughter. The Empress Dowager was initially delighted to see Yunshu and me. But when she heard the purpose of my visit, she nearly fainted from anger. The Emperor and Empress Dowager summoned Zhang Lingxiao and Fang Qing to the palace that very night. Instead of going to see the Emperor first, Zhang Lingxiao came to me. He stormed toward me, and Yunshu instinctively hid behind me at his sight. Zhang Lingxiao glared at me with unbridled fury. Suyutang, take your anger out on me. Why drag Qingqing into this? I told you I won't marry her. What more do you want from me? What exactly are you trying to achieve? I looked at him with disgust, suddenly realizing how long I'd endured his family's cruelty for his sake. My voice turned cold. Zhang Lingxiao, I told you long ago to sign the divorce papers. You want both reputation and beauty? You're being far too naive. I spotted a flash of pink in the nearby grass and chuckled. Didn't the Emperor summon you? What's this? Now you won't even listen to His Majesty's orders? Zhang Lingxiao followed my gaze. Fang Qing's eyes were slightly red, her whole body swaying as she looked at him. He walked over, took Fang Qing's hand, and shouted at me, "We're going now. Are you satisfied?" I had no interest in their fate, but the way he spoke made Yunshu flinch, and that displeased me greatly. Zhang Lingxiao, my patience has limits. Pray the Emperor's punishment falls heavy upon you, or I cannot guarantee what I might do. Zhang Lingxiao left me with a resolute back, dragging Fang Qing away. Holding Yunshu's hand, I said nothing. A glance to Xiaoyao, and she understood. Departing immediately, the imperial court arrived at the Empress Dowager's palace and conveyed the verdict. Zhang Lingxiao signed the divorce papers before the imperial court. He was stripped of his title, received 30 lashes, and the entire Zhang family faced repercussions. Fang Qing, however, escaped punishment. This was my request. After all, compared to physical punishment, I believed the damage from rumors would be far greater for her. After that day, news of Zhang Lingxiao's demotion for abandoning his wife and child spread throughout the streets. Moreover, as the sole heir of the Yongzheng Marquis, the Zhang family's cover-up of their concubine's affair quickly became common knowledge. Everyone learned that Zhang Lingxiao's mistress was none other than Fang Qing, the self-righteous physician's daughter. After that, I never saw Zhang Lingxiao or Fang Qing again. I brought Yunshu back to the Marquis of Yongzheng's residence and ceased inquiring about their whereabouts. The next time I heard news of them, it was when Fang Qing came to the Marquis's residence seeking me out. She knelt outside the residence for several hours, solely to see me. I made her wait for hours before instructing the steward to let her in. Her entire being seemed fragile and trembling, truly possessing the delicate grace of a white flower swaying in the wind. She said Zhang Lingxiao had been living miserably these past days, stripped of his official position. He drifted through his days in a daze. The Zhang family had given up all hope in him. She begged me to take Yunshu to see him, promising she'd never appear before us again. She claimed she never intended to marry him. only to stay by his side. I felt like someone had shoved a pile of shit down my throat. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. My voice dripped with contempt as I snapped. Miss Fong, I don't need to air your dirty laundry in public. All I know is it makes me sick. The whole capital knows Zhang Lingxiao's vows. Yet after you've slept with him, you tell me you never meant anything by it? Are you that desperate for a man to sleep with you? Why must you put it so crudely? Ling Xiao and you have been married for years. You even have a child together. Why push things to such extremes? I rolled my eyes. I find it truly difficult to communicate with you. I only wanted to hear your insights. But this is utterly revolting. Peony escorted the guests out. Fong Qing rose to speak further. But Xiaoyao stuffed a rag into her mouth. They tossed her straight to the gate of the Zhan residence. Xiaoyao glared at Zhan Lingxiao and snapped. General Zhan, kindly keep your concubine in check. Don't let her act so shamelessly and offend my young mistress. With that, she turned and left. Life returned to normal for Yunshu and me. I didn't stop Zhan Lingxiao from seeing Yunshu, after all. He remained her father, and I didn't want to meddle in their bond. As time passed, Zhan Lingxiao gradually returned to his usual self. Yet he still didn't marry Fong Qing. Fong Qing's reputation was ruined. Even opening a clinic drew pointed whispers. So she shut it down altogether and moved in beside Zhan Lingxiao, becoming his unacknowledged mistress. Time healed Zhan Lingxiao too. He prepared to rejoin the army, determined to reclaim his military glory. Before departure, he met with me under the pretense of bidding farewell to Yunshu. He stared at me for a long moment before speaking. Yutong. If only I hadn't. I didn't want to hear what he was about to say and cut him off. Zhan Lingxiao. I refused to repeat this sentence a second time. Make it clear, to me. You are now only Yunshu's father. Whatever you chose back then was your decision. Everything is settled now. I don't want to revisit it. Whether you regret it or not has nothing to do with me. Zhan Lingxiao paled at my words. He hadn't expected Su Yutong to remain so cold. He thought that after all this time, she would at least miss him as much as he missed her. That was why he never married Fong Qing. A sliver of hope lingered in his heart. He believed that if he only asked, Su Yutong would return to him, and their family of 3 could be whole again. But hearing her icy tone, he finally realized his mistake, a colossal one. How could she have left him any hope when she'd walked away so decisively? He wanted to return to the battlefield, to earn military honors at least, so he could ask for Su Yutong's hand again. But when the enemy's arrow pierced his body, he wondered if Su Yutong learned of his death. Would she regret it? Regret rejecting him before she left? Fong Qing's face reappeared in his mind. She had looked at him with eyes full of admiration, saying he was the bravest man she had ever seen, willing to stay by his side forever without any claim. If only he had pushed Fong Qing away back then, would everything have turned out better? But it was too late. Everything had already happened. His vision gradually blurred, his body growing colder by the second. Zhan Lingxiao died on the battlefield. He wanted to see if Su Yutong would weep bitterly with remorse. He drifted to her side. She was reclining on a chaise lounge, taking a nap, while their daughter, Yunshu, practiced calligraphy nearby. She looked just as she always had, or perhaps he sensed she seemed even younger. Yunshu grew more beautiful and poised with each passing day. Surely they would grieve? But no. Upon receiving the news, they carried on with their lives as before. His death or survival made no difference to their existence. He didn't want to leave. He believed Su Yutong would surely think of him in the quiet of the night. That Yunshu would surely miss her father. But she didn't. Su Yutong had remarried. Her new husband was the newly crowned top scholar, who willingly became a son-in-law for her sake. He treated her with tenderness and consideration, and cared for Yunshu attentively. Zhang Lingxiao sought to exploit his flaws, proving no one could ever be the man Su Yutang desired. Yet he succeeded, his life revolved solely around her. After court, he hurried home, driven only by the need to be by her side. He wanted to accompany her through meals and outings, to simply be with her. The year after their marriage, Su Yutang unexpectedly gave birth to a child. Unlike Zhang Lingxiao, he remained constantly by Su Yutang's side, weeping even more bitterly than she did. Holding her hand, he vowed they would never have another child. They became the picture-perfect family of four everyone spoke of. Yet all of this had once been his. He began blaming Fang Qing, she had ruined him. But he couldn't find her. It turned out that on the day he enlisted, the Zhang family had beaten her to death and discarded her body. To this day, he still couldn't locate her remains. In the third year of drifting beside Su Yutang, the demon guards shackled him and dragged him away. He remained unwilling to accept it. How could Su Yutang be living so well without him? The ox-headed and horse-faced demons dragged him away forcefully, bellowing a warning, "If you'd known this would happen, why did you do it in the first place?" He turned for one last look at Su Yutang. Her family of four sat together, radiant with happiness, their smiles bright and joyful. The end.